I really wish more people cared about this. I wish more people were working on it. There are other news outlets out there, and maybe they are behind the scenes. Maybe they're furiously doing a deep dive, and we're going to get a 10,000-word article somewhere, one of those long reads that nobody ever actually reads but says, bravo on the long read. Oh, great job on the long read. I'll get back to you when I actually read the long read. But maybe somebody's going to have something that really peels this onion, because there is so much out there. With the Washington football team emails, starting with Jon Gruden, only 12 days ago, how the world has changed for the NFL in 12 days. There are so many questions that still need to be answered. And I'm asking the ones that come to mind for me when I'm otherwise not dealing with, the rest of the NFL, because the train keeps moving. That's the thing that helps the NFL the most. The train keeps moving. They're hoping it dies down because we've got news, developments, football, day off, football, more football. And it's going to die on the vine if there isn't news. So anyway, Miles, here's the news. A couple of things we reported today at PFT. One, the Jeff Pash emails with Bruce Allen. A handful of them leaked last Thursday night during the game that was played, and I already forget who the teams were, Tampa Bay and Philadelphia.
Buccaneers and Eagles. There we go.
Yes. We reported today, and the NFL has confirmed this, but downplays the figure because it was over a decade, more than 1,000 emails exchanged between Jeff Pash and Bruce Allen. We are privy to a few of them that were leaked to the New York Times and or the Wall Street Journal. And I just think it's another reason why we need to see all of them. And look, it works out over 10 years to roughly 2 per week. That's fine. That's fine. Let's see them. Let's see all of them. What are you hiding? If it's no big deal, what are you hiding? Let's see them. And you can't say it's a bad precedent, because with Deflategate, we had a report that was biblical in proportion. And there were text messages disclosed and emails disclosed. So once the door is open and once this public interest topic begins to unfold for all to see, because the NFL is intensely in the public eye, and the public interest relies on so much that it does, and it relies on public money for its stadiums, public attention and dollars for people who show up. Let's see it. If it's no big deal, let's see it. Oh, it's only 1,000. It's only 2 a week. Okay, let's just see them. Let's see them and be done with it, Miles. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you are. And I mean, I think you're wrong on some things, but I don't think you're wrong on this at all. I think that when we see something like this, and you can downplay it and say, okay, that's 2 per week. Well, it's also, 4 every 2 weeks, right? It's 8 a month. You don't necessarily have to be emailing somebody every single week. And it could have any number of different things in there, whether it was something that showed favoritism to Washington, whether it has to do with fines levied or some other issue that has to do with the league. And I mean, you pointed this out in what you posted on PFT today. It's not necessarily like it was helping Washington's performance, but there are other ways that it can help Washington's football team when you have some favoritism shown to you from the league office. So I don't think that you're wrong on this in terms of, peeling back that onion or getting into different layers of something. What else has layers? Parfait has layers. There's another movie reference for you, Mike. That's something that I've actually seen. But I just feel like, that we can definitely get more of the information if we just release the emails and then we see everything, and then we all know whether or not there was something untoward within them.
By the way, if I ever ask you again if I'm wrong about something, you don't need to preface your response by pointing out that I am wrong on many things, but not this. I'm only asking you about this. I wasn't asking for a blank check. Miles Simmons endorses everything I say on every topic. Although if you ever want to give me one, I'll take it. But no, on this,
got it, yes.
This stinks to me. My wife and I were talking about this earlier today. Every once in a while, there's one of these stories where my instinct tells me there is more. My instinct tells me something's off, and there's been nothing about the developments of the past 2 weeks that have done anything to soften my instinct. If anything, everything that's happened has intensified my instinct. They're hiding these. They're counting on people not caring. They're counting on broadcast partners not being aggressive, frankly. And I credit NBC for supporting me completely in this effort and not saying, well, you better, there's a limit. You can only go so far. You better, just be careful. No one has said a word to me about that, and NBC deserves credit for that. Yeah. But there's something more. And they are playing run out the clock. They're playing the four corners offense. They are doing what they can to make this go away before someone finally pushes this over the cliff. And I don't know what it will be that pushes it over the cliff, but I'm going to keep pushing. And hopefully somebody else will join in, whether it's in the media, whether it's the NFL Players Association finding some creative basis for suing to get these, whether it's someone in Congress holding a hearing and demanding these, whether it's some private citizen somewhere that comes up with some argument under the Freedom of Information Act that these things are fair game. More people need to keep pushing because they are hiding something. And the more they try to keep their head low and their mouths shut, the more obvious it is, Miles.
I think it just goes back to Gruden's emails leaking when they did, right? That was somebody's agenda. And again, and we've said this basically every time we've talked about this, it doesn't mean that Gruden should not have lost his job, but at the same time, it was certainly somebody's agenda to get him removed from his position by releasing the emails when they did. And that creates a competitive disadvantage for the Las Vegas Raiders. Unfortunately, they went out and they won the game that they played against the Denver Broncos last week. But you can't say that that did not affect what was going on with the Raiders when they played the Chicago Bears. And Jon Gruden was still coaching that team. And it ends up that he resigns the next day. So what's the agenda and why? And why is it that we've only seen certain emails and we haven't seen all of them? I think that those are fair questions to ask. And, I agree that it's good that NBC has let you continue to push on this issue because I think it's worth exploring.
Jon Gruden has wisely fallen out of view on this, and he'll probably stay out of view for a while, and he'll resurface at some point. I suspect he'll go to work for a sports book and make as much, if not more money than he was making with the Raiders, quite frankly. But he has not yet resolved his compensation package with the Raiders. NFL media, which not surprisingly isn't reporting much on this issue, did report over the weekend that a settlement is expected between the Raiders and Gruden. And you know what? If a settlement doesn't happen, that's when things could get very interesting because Gruden could sue the Raiders. Now, under Gruden's contract, there's most likely a clause that requires all disputes to be resolved via grievance that would be heard and adjudicated by the commissioner. Good luck winning that. But there could be a way to sue the NFL for tortious interference with his business expectations. Now, he's not going to be the most sympathetic victim because of the emails that he sent, but he has rights. And somebody in the very small circle, Miles, of people who had access to these at the upper reaches of the NFL, ownership, commissioner level, okay? Somebody decided to take this guy out. And if there's a way to posture this and acknowledge, hey, I was wrong with these emails. I got what I deserved, but I didn't get what I deserved the way that it happened, and others may have gotten nothing by way of consequence to them for potentially similar behavior. There's a way if Gruden wants to be aggressive, he can do this. I don't think he will, but there's a way if he wanted to.
Well, right. And that's why I think that, when you're talking about Jon Gruden and the fact that he got taken out by this investigation into the Washington football team, he's basically the only one who's received a severe penalty from that investigation into an organization that had nothing to do with what is now the Las Vegas Raiders. He didn't even work for them at that time. And so that's why I feel like if I were him or if I were the Raiders, I would want at least there to be some sort of written report to come out of that Washington investigation. And I don't know if there's a way to retroactively do that now that the investigation has been over since early July. But that to me is where you still got the biggest issue, right? Because whether Dan Snyder is or is not suspended and can or can't do whatever he can or can't do with Washington until maybe the commissioner allows him to do it, or maybe he doesn't, whatever that is, like, that's not as severe a penalty as what Jon Gruden received from an investigation that initially had nothing to do with him. So again, like, I don't know if there are other NFL owners that would actually want to see that happen, but maybe if I'm Mark Davis, that's something that would be on my mind, because why am I the one who's being punished out of an investigation that had nothing to do with my franchise?
And I had a little light bulb flicker as you were saying what you said. And this is why I like the back and forth that comes from this show and from PFT Live. It stimulates the brain. And it doesn't have to just be Jon Gruden versus the NFL and 32 franchises. It can be Jon Gruden and the Las Vegas Raiders. Al Davis would have done it in a heartbeat. Al Davis would have relished the opportunity to take on the NFL, because Al Davis's team has been victimized by this even more than Jon Gruden, because there's no evidence that the Raiders did anything wrong at all. And I wrote over the weekend, who picked the day that they selected to start the lawnmower? We used that metaphor last week. Who pulled the cord on the lawnmower? It's clear it was the NFL. It wasn't the leak that led to the investigation of Gruden. It was the investigation of Gruden that led to the leak, because the leak led to the ultimate consequence, because without the leak, he's still coaching the Raiders, folks.
Right.
Maybe Mark Davis does something about it after the season, but why is Mark Davis going to hurt his own competitive interest by bringing this to a head now? So somebody did. So their season got torpedoed by somebody. And I don't know the owners who had access to these emails. I do know this. In June of 2021, Dan Snyder went to 345 Park Avenue and met with the commissioner and a small handful of owners about what his punishment was going to be. And those people are essentially the universe, them and their lawyers, the universe of the folks who had full access to the 650,000 emails that supposedly had nothing to do with the workplace investigation, but they still had them. Good luck figuring that out without fracturing your brain. But we don't know who those other owners are. I mean, if you're somebody who competes with the Raiders, I'm not making accusations here, but we know other owners were involved. We don't know who. What if it's an owner from another AFC West team? There's your motivation as we try to figure out why the Gruden stuff got leaked. You torpedo the Raiders season. Cross them off the list. So, again, I'm not saying who it was. I don't know who it was, but it was somebody, and it's potentially somebody who benefited from the Raiders season being cut off at the knees 5 games in. That's all I'm saying. So these are all things that, all these things just need to be answered, because, again, the NFL relies so much on the public interest and the public trust and public funding and public everything. You can't start screaming, we're a private business, it's none of your damn business. That doesn't work here when you've created the precedent of having these open and transparent investigations like Deflategate, Bullygate, every gate they've had in the past 10 years, Bountygate. They've presented chapter and verse evidence for us to see. And now this time around, they're not showing us, because in the other cases, it helped their interest to show us. In this case, it doesn't help their interests to be transparent. They're hiding something. They are hiding something. And if they want to prove me wrong, go ahead and reveal everything and show us that you're not hiding anything, that there's nothing there to hide.
Right. Exactly. I mean, like you said, if we can, go through everything we went through over some deflated footballs when Tom Brady could have been throwing a brick in whatever playoff game that was, divisional AFC championship, and they still would have beaten the Colts, then I feel like we can do a little bit more here on something that has had, I think, far more wide-reaching consequences than something like that.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.